From the moment he took that escalator ride down in Trump Tower with his wife and announced his plans to run for the presidency, and he gave that speech where he talked about not everyone crossing our border were good people, that there were killers and murderers and thieves and criminals. And immediately, the media sprang into action that Donald Trump could not be president because his words were divisive and they would incite violence. When he became the president for 4 years, it was a steady drumbeat of every message that he gave was somehow inciting violence. Even when he would say things to the conservative base like, we've got to fight, they would automatically take it to that nuclear level that he was trying to get the conservative Americans in this country to pick up arms and revolt. And of course, we know how they're trying to spin January the 6th. And now that the Queen is dead and buried, they've got to get your attention on something besides the fact that Joe Biden just told everybody the pandemic is over, which means he is completely irrelevant now with his so-called emergency powers. And it's time for all the asinine restrictions and nonsense to stop, despite the fact that the White House is trying to walk it back and say, well, what he really meant was for the American people, the pandemic is over, but they need to pay attention because there's still things happening. No. Sorry, genie's out of the bottle, toothpaste is out of the tube, whatever analogy you want to give it. He said it. He said that the pandemic is over, and so you got to get people's attention on anything else. So, Shazam Batman. The January 6th committee is going to reconvene. And of course, today, the New York State Attorney General is going to bring charges of fraud and misrepresentation against Donald Trump, Ivanka, Don Jr., Eric Trump, Trump Enterprises, and the beat goes on. And by the way, for those of you that were hoping, well, we need Ron DeSantis because, he stands for everything that Trump does, but he just doesn't, make everybody upset. You don't think the dropping 50 migrants off in Martha's Vineyard has upset a few people? I mean, they have gone bat-crap crazy over this, and now the people of Martha's Vineyard talking about how wonderful it was to have them there for less than 48 hours, and we gave them new clothes and new phones, and you put them on a bus and sent them to a concentration camp. Oh, I'm sorry, an internment camp. Oh, I'm sorry, a military base that you told them were dormitories because you didn't, quote, want to frighten them. Oh, liberal hypocrisy on steroids and out there for the entire world to see. But of course, now the media going hot and heavy, they're now already coming down with DeSantis hate syndrome. Anything that a conservative says that even remotely sounds like a locker room pep talk. Come on, we got to get these guys. What do they mean by they got to get us? They're out to kill us. And remember, anything that Donald Trump said, according to Jim Acosta, was an absolute not only threat on democracy, why those wonderful defecate marble, walk on water people known as the lying legacy corporate corrupt mainstream media, their lives were in danger because of Donald Trump. All that's changed under Joe Biden. A couple of weeks ago, he gives that speech that literally looked like it was filmed in hell, with the dark and the red lights. It's the problem with people with dementia. They have no conception of time, space, or reality, and so they really don't get, when certain events actually happen and don't happen. He was several weeks too early for Halloween. But, hey, he gave us a great visual, and it looked just like the Supreme Leader giving a speech in 1984. And it looked eerily familiar to, somebody doing a zig, hey, how you doing? But when he talked about Ultra MAGA, and every speech, when he starts to talk about Ultra MAGA people, that would be me and you, his voice gets down, and he talks about these people are an existential threat. The biggest terrorist threat we face right now in the homeland is white supremacy. Well, you can thank Martha's Vineyard for that now, because I'm sure the white supremacists are, doing this and high-fiving each other, that the wonderful white liberals of Martha's Vineyard ship those brown-colored people out as quickly as possible, all while virtue signaling and wearing, their LBGT, MICKEYMOUSE t-shirts, and love is love, and we embrace diversity, and, there is no such thing as a foreigner, they're, yeah, until they come to Martha's Vineyard. Then they can't stay. And I know the white supremacists are ecstatic at how the residents of Martha's Vineyard dispatched those brown people so quickly. Good job. But when Joe Biden speaks in very divisive terms, there's never any analysis or reflection or even simple questioning. Could what he says incite violence? Dateline, Sunday. Place, North Dakota. 41-year-old Shannon Brandt ran over a teenager, Kaylor Ellingston. Why did he run him over? Well, I'll give him this. He didn't say it was because he was drunk. He said it was because he doesn't like his political views. He considers this teen a, quote, ultra MAGA extremist. Apparently, there was some type of outdoor festival in this town, street party. We have them here in my town. You get the food vendors, you get live music. And these two bumped into each other, and somehow they got into a discussion of politics. Kaylor, apparently, even as a teenager, though, is politically astute and happens to be a supporter of Donald Trump. The two got into an argument, and Kaylor starts to walk home, and he called his mom on his cell phone, saying, "Mom, there's this guy kind of like creeping me and stalking me, and can you please come get me?" And by the time his mom got there, he was in fact dead. Shannon Brandt, 41, ran over this kid because he didn't like his political views. And now Shannon Brandt is saying he doesn't want bail, or that he should be released on his own recognizance because he's got a family and he owns a business in town, so he's no flight risk. You have Joe Biden out there saying the biggest terror threat we face right now is white supremacists, ultra MAGA people. FBI whistleblowers are talking about they're being pulled off of real cases to literally find and manufacture white supremacist groups. Because everything for the FBI is now run out of Washington, D.C. All the regional offices, which, should be in tune to the needs of their area and know kind of what crimes are prevalent in their area, they take all their marching orders now from the centralized Washington, D.C. headquarters. Thank you, George W. Bush, and your unconstitutional Patriot Act, and you and the Republicans that supported you brought us the police state. Thank you. And then Barack Obama took it to another level, and now Joe Biden is taking it to an even another level. And when Donald Trump tried to dismantle it, the deep state showed him who was actually in charge. You Republicans that are still defending George Bush, the man is a criminal. And his sidekick, his partner in crime, literally and figuratively, the former vice president, whose daughter is one of the leaders of the January 6th Commission. Dick Cheney's a war criminal and a war profiteer. Because, nothing rallies the American people like a good war, and George Bush needed a rally. Just like you've got Joe Biden, and I'm telling you, the internal polling numbers are telling them how badly the Democrats are going to get annihilated and creamed in these midterms. And he needs something, anything. How about a nuclear war with Russia? The way we keep goading and goading and goading Putin. Very interesting, is it? Because after all, who would switch presidents and leadership in the middle of a war? That's going to bring us together. We got to be in this together. Wag the dog. This is these Democrats have no limit and no bottom to how low and nasty and underhanded they will go. But we've got violence now breaking out. A young person is dead. Flip the script. A guy comes from a Trump rally, runs into a teenager. They get into an argument over some cultural, social justice issue. And the guy from the Trump rally kills the teen. What's the immediate headline across the nation on every media outlet? Donald Trump incites violence. Donald Trump incites violence. Remember when Megyn Kelly went berserk during the 2016 election cycle and Donald Trump told a heckler as they were being dragged out, beat him up. Let him have it. And Megyn Kelly, he incites violence. Joe Biden is divisive, dismissive, and is not a uniter. He wants us divided. He wants us fighting. He wants us literally at each other's throats as he systematically strips away our rights so that the government can swoop in and take over everything. And you will need the government for everything. You're going to get the jab whether you want it or not. You're going to have to be able to maintain that it's at a current level. And once they get it digitized, they'll be able to do it from a computer pad, whether you ask for that particular inoculation, for that particular thing or not. It'll just be ding and done. And they will control you, they will track you, they will know exactly where you are, what you're doing, and we're going to put the farms out of business, and you will be dependent on the government for everything, including your food supply. Because, as I said, the problem is not capitalism, the problem is socialism and fascism as the corporations take over all areas of business. And all you liberal wannabe hippies that, left your job and went to a place like Vermont and bought a farm, and you watch YouTube videos to figure out how to farm and kind of get back to, organic farming and farmers markets. Wait till the people you elected tell you that none of your stuff is FDA approved and you're out of business. That your flatulating cows are killing the environment. You're out of business. But Joe Biden and his rhetoric, we can directly tie it now to an individual who acted on it. Now, look, I understand, you understand, that we can't always be held responsible that there are sick tickets in every group. There are whack jobs in every group. And while I look at what happened on January 6th, and I have a lot of suspicions, and I do understand, and even the New York Times has had to report and admit and acknowledge that there were government ops and FBI filtered in among that crowd, and some of them may have said things that got things stirred up like they wanted something to happen. But it doesn't change the fact there were some crazies who considered themselves, MAGA Trump supporters. And yeah, they got off on what happened that day. Every group has their crazies. What I don't see is Joe Biden coming forward and denouncing this. I don't see Joe Biden coming forward and saying, we can't have this. Don't do this. Do not hurt people. Do not kill people with whom you had political disagreement. The funny thing is basically the national media is not covering this at all. But if this had been Donald Trump's watch, it would be on every news channel, including FOPA News, formerly known as Fox News, nonstop. What about the violence that's breaking out against crisis pregnancy centers following the Supreme Court decision? What about churches that are known for their pro-life stance and the violence they have faced? National media is not covering any of that. But if Donald Trump was in office and one African American church suffered some type of violent incident, it would be splashed across every headline for days ad nauseum. We literally have churches and pregnancy centers being burned to the ground, people hurt, and no national media coverage, including so-called conservative faux pas news, formerly known as Fox News. By the way, Fox News is not conservative. They are controlled opposition. That's all they are. And the good little leprechaun, Sean Hannity, he is no different than a Don Lemon. They're both actors. They just read different scripts. But they're both playing a part. Period.
And Ben Shapiro, Ben Shapiro with that nice whiny voice, and I'm going to be the real protector of real conservatism, and we can't have Donald Trump or his people. They're going to sink our party.
That, as a pastor, the book of the Song of Solomon, the book of Ecclesiastes, written by Solomon, there is nothing new under the sun. All of this criticism that we hear coming from so-called conservatives like Ben Shapiro against Donald Trump, we heard for years from so-called conservatives about Ronald Reagan, that we had to get away from Reaganism. Witness Protection Romney, when he ran for the governorship of Massachusetts, wanted everybody to know he was a conservative and a Republican, but he was not a Reagan Republican. Don't ever call me that. I don't want to be that. So Ben, you're a one-trick pony. Go away and take Ann Inheat Coulter with you. She just wants to be eye candy for some, spaced out libloon that she's, engages in whatever adult proclivities she engages in with liberal young boys. She's not a conservative either. Stop listening to these people. Listen to platforms like this. Find other independent, truly independent, alternative media outlets. Now, I will say on Faux Pas News, I like Tucker. I like Laura, but I like Tucker. Because Tucker has no sponsors, he just says whatever he wants because, he's been so blacklisted by advertising agencies that Faux Pas News, they give us one. They give us one show where we're really getting things unfiltered and unedited, and that's Tucker. Hannity's an entertainer, and don't get me started on Neil Caputo. If this had happened on Donald Trump's watch, even Faux Pas News would be all over this. You don't hear anything on these so-called conservative news outlets about crisis pregnancy centers being burned, churches being burned, and now a teenager probably maybe wearing a MAGA t-shirt being killed. And he's been charged with Shannon Brand, though he has admitted he ran this kid over because of his political views, did it on purpose. He's been charged with vehicular manslaughter. It's homicide. It's premeditated homicide. It is murder in the first degree. We certainly live in interesting times, don't we? And should Joe Biden be accountable that his words have incited this incident? Absolutely he should. Will he be? Come on. You and I both know the answer to that.